Good afternoon. Welcome to the certification webinar brought to you by the Certification Task Force at the National Center for Pavement Preservation. My name is John Singer, and I am the Engineer of Pavement Technology with the Illinois Department of Transportation. And I'm also the Chair of the Certification Task Force. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the TSP2 website for future viewing. So if some of your colleagues missed this presentation, they will be able to view it later. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box and we will address them at the end of the presentation. First, let's go over the webinar control panel. On the left, you have the full or expanded version of the control panel. Here you will find the button to hide the panel. The two buttons below will adjust the size of the viewing panel. You can maximize the viewing panel or shrink it to be able to view other windows on your screen. The next button below is to raise your hand and alert the organizer of a situation. The last item I would like to point out is the question box. I will cover that on the next slide. On the right of the slide, we have the control panel in a minimized state. The controls are the same. The only thing that I would like to point out is that you have to hit the orange arrow to maximize the control panel again. Here we have a quick view of submitting a question to the panel. Type your question in the box here. After you are done typing, click the send button and your question will be submitted to the organizer. The question will now appear in the questions box above. You're only able to view your questions in this box. Upon the completion of the webinar, we will review all the questions and answer them. There's a very quick survey at the end of the webinar asking for your suggestions and your input. Your input is very valuable and it will help the task force and the National Center advance this program. Today, I will give an overall view of the certification. Neil Galehouse from the National Center will give the details of the certification program. Todd Shields from the Indiana Department of Transportation will provide their perspective on certification and how it has benefited their preservation program. Rex Everly from ISSA and Bergkamp by Tuna Solutions will give the industry's view and how it can benefit a contractor. Let's start with an introduction and overview of the program. What do we mean when we say certification? The goal of this program is to take the widely accepted body of knowledge and skills that are integral to producing a quality product and have those who wish to be certified demonstrate their mastery of this knowledge. It is also recognized that these treatments are sensitive to variables, especially the condition of the roadway prior to application. These treatments are also sensitive to materials, construction practices, and techniques. It was the goal from the conception of the program to include both contractors and agency personnel to make sure that we are giving these treatments the best possible chance of success. Individuals who are involved with the project selection, pre-construction site preparation, construction, and inspection should be involved in the certification program. We have all seen preservation projects that have not gone according to plan, and that is what the certification program is trying to address and correct. In this first picture, we have an improper gradation on a chip seal. I'm unsure if it was a poorly written specification or oversight by the quality control and quality assurance personnel, or lack of knowledge by the contractor. In the second photo, we have the distributor truck running away from the chip spreader. This is not setting up this project for success. In the next photograph, we have a poorly constructed cape seal. And then on the other product, on the other picture, we have a microsurfacing that was constructed in Illinois in 2015. The designer wanted to try and stretch their money by leaving the longitudinal construction joint and raised pavement markers untouched. Illinois still has a problem with obtaining density at the longitudinal joint as one of the main causes for rehabilitation. Leaving an area for water to pond and penetrate a porous surface will only accelerate this deterioration. The final photo is a project that was submitted for consideration to use as a cape seal. Luckily, the selection committee has made the conclusion that the cracking was too extensive to construct a successful cape seal. Neil Gail House from the National Center for Pavement Preservation will give an overview of the certification program. Neil?
Thanks, John. So on the next few slides, I'm going to go over some specifics of the exam process. There's currently 3 exams offered as part of the certification, AASHTO TSP2 certification program. The first is slurry systems, which covers microsurfacing, slurry seal, as well as polymer modified slurry seal. There's a chip seal exam, and there's also a crack treatment exam. So who are the people that we recommend for certification process? On the agency side, we recommend that includes a preservation specialist at the headquarters or central office. We recommend 1 senior level inspector from each region. We also recommend a preservation treatment designer from each region. And finally, any outside consultants that are providing inspection services on behalf of the agency. For the contractor, we recommend that certified personnel include the company superintendent, superintendents, the company trainer if there's been one designated by the company. Sometimes the person that's responsible for training may be the superintendent or the foreman, and the company hasn't designated a specific individual. But Rex will be covering a little later on the importance of the trainer and what responsibilities they have to certification and for training people who may not necessarily be responsible for taking the exam themselves. And there's also, we recommend that the crew foreman and placement machine operators be certified. So in preparing for the exam, there's really 2 sources of information that we use. The first is the free ISSA web-based training program. To register, you'll follow the link on the page. There's about a 2-hour course for each one of these exams. If you're taking the slurry system exam, there's a second web-based training on spreader boxes separate from the slurry and micro training class. And there's also a NCPP certification session guide. It's a PDF document. You can view it on the website or download that as well. The exam itself, the agency exam, is made up of 50 questions. The contractor exam is 80 questions, with the exception of the crack treatment exam, which is 50 questions, like they are on the agency exams. All exams are paper exams. They're in true, false, or multiple choice format, and examinees need to score 70% to pass. The exam is closed book, closed note. There's no time limit to complete the exam, but most examinees generally take half an hour to an hour to complete an exam. Consultants who are working as inspectors for the agency should take the agency version of the exam. And for agencies that are placing the treatment themselves, we recommend that they take the contractor version of the exam. Each exam is designed to test examinees on topics they need to produce a quality product. So the agency and the contractor version of the exam are going to place emphasis on different areas, but they're both going to cover the 6 general topics shown on your screen. To date, the agency pass rate on the exam across all treatments is about 62%, and the contractor pass rate is about 72%. The best advice I can offer on preparing for the exam is to spend adequate time going over the training material. We host the ISSA web-based training courses, and as the course administrator, we have a number of analytics as far as how long people spend in the course, how people answer questions on the final quiz, and so on. And there's a high degree of correlation between the time spent in the web-based training and performance on the exam. If someone goes and takes the web-based training and skips through the slides in the training content and focuses on the final quiz, that's not going to adequately prepare them to take the exam, because the final quiz is short relative to the certification exam and isn't reflective of the level of difficulty of the questions on the certification exam. So for the examinees who pass the certification exam, they're entered into a searchable national database on the TSP2 website and are issued a durable, non-transferable card, which looks like the one on your screen. The certification will stay valid for 3 years. The purpose of the card itself is to present it on the job site to know who has the certification. If someone is on the job site and they don't have the card, then you're able to go to the database and search by name or employer, and it'll show the date through which that person is certified. So to take the exam, there's a number of options available. Each exam is offered in conjunction with the TSP2 partnership meetings. So each year there's 4 regional partnerships that meet around the country. And if you're part of the TSP2 and you're participating in those partnerships or are in reasonable proximity to the meeting, there's an option to take it there. If you're not a member of the TSP2, you don't need to join the partnership or take part in the partnership meeting to show up and take the exam. Second option is to take it after the conclusion of the ISSA Slurry Systems Workshop, which is held each January. That workshop is in Las Vegas, Nevada, and so the next opportunity will be in January of 2019. Periodically, we have other exam dates available at locations around the country, so you can check through that website on the TSP2 webpage for other opportunities that may be available. If none of these dates on the website meet your needs and you have a large group, we can schedule an exam at your facility. In this case, you should contact the National Center for Pavement Preservation to make arrangements. We offer the option to have us come in and just administer the exam, or we can also do a brief 2 to 3 hour refresher training before the exam, and then the group can take the exam afterwards. And we leave that choice of format up to the group receiving the exam. If you don't have a large group and none of the dates are suitable for you, you have the option to take it through a testing center that is part of the National College Testing Association's consortium of college testing centers. And these are located at colleges and universities across the country. Most states have several of these centers. And so what you'll do is you'll go to the link on the screen and identify one that is nearest you, and then make arrangements with the testing center to go in and take the exam with them. And once you've scheduled that date, you need to contact the National Center for Pavement Preservation with your exam date and make arrangements for us to send the exam to the testing center and to pay your exam fee. And so when you do that, we ask that you schedule an exam at least a week out so we have time to get the exam to the testing center before your testing date. Some of these centers are going to charge a nominal fee to proctor an exam, maybe $20 or $25. And any fees that are charged by those testing centers are separate from the exam fee and are the responsibility of the examinee. So for everyone who wants to register for the exam other than large groups, you'll go to the website shown under the other exam dates, the tsp2.org/certification, and register there. For large groups, you can contact us directly and handle the group registration as one registration instead of registering people individually. So the fees for the exam are $200 per exam for agency employee and $325 per exam for contractors and consultants. Any retake exams are offered at $200 per exam. The hope of certification is that both the agency and the contractor come to the job with certified employees and work together to accomplish a quality product. The process to fully implement certification for the agency, meaning that the contractor is required to have certified employees, can be accomplished two ways. One is to include it in the treatment specification, and the other is to add a pre-qualification requirement. Now I'm going to turn things over to Todd Shields from the Indiana Department of Transportation, who will give an agency perspective on certification.
All right, thanks, Neil. Good afternoon to most of you. Good morning for anyone farther out west. Again, I'm Todd Shields. I'm with the Indiana Department of Transportation. So just give a little bit of background on who we are. We construct about 1,500 lane miles per year of chip seal. Predominantly, this is done with our in-house maintenance crews. We do some contracts from time to time. We're broken into 6 districts. Each district has its own equipment and crew. So we have 6 crews, so to speak, around the state. Training. We've been chip sealing now at that level for going on 10 years. So we've had various efforts over the years to try to train our folks, to try to keep getting better. We've brought in the National Center. They offer chip seal training, various NHI courses, and then lots of in-house training. We've done site to site. We've done webinars. We try to do in the spring what we call our kickoffs, where we go over best practices, go over NDOT specific policies and procedures, kind of the do's and don'ts before we get going. We still have opportunities to improve. This specific road, as you can tell, was just done. Hadn't even got the striping on it yet. And as you can see, both lanes, as far as the eye can see, we've got problems. It's very uniform. We were having problems all the way along, and we just kept going. So not only did we not look behind us to see what we were doing, when we turned around, we didn't seem to notice the other lane that wasn't looking too healthy. So to kind of tie together what Neil was talking about, the importance of having the certification for both the contractor and the agency. We did a contract, it's been a couple years ago now, at the Indiana Women's Prison west of Indianapolis. This was a service road and parking lot going around the prison where we contracted the chip seal. Kind of just something that we learned right off the bat, forget quality, is chip seals are not necessarily a good choice for parking lots. They're, you've got too many turning movements, you've got people walking around, just not a good application for a chip seal. So the story goes on this job, and these pictures you can tell it did not turn out well. And this was actually the second time the contractor did it. Didn't turn out any better. But the story goes, the contractor showed up, he shot the entire job with emulsion, then got on the chip box, ran out 1 load of stone. That was all he had, so he had to send the truck to go get more stone. Well, during that time, it drizzled, it rained, and he came back and tried to finish, and obviously not much stuck. So not only did the contractor have no idea what he was doing, our inspector who was on site had absolutely no idea what he was looking at. He obviously was not familiar with the specifications, was not familiar with the treatment at all. So it went both ways there. It was a complete breakdown. So our path to certification, this was about a year ago now. We wanted to bring the TSP2 certification to our crews, our in-house crews. So again, we typically do those kickoff trainings. So we decided to incorporate the ISSA web-based training into the kickoffs. We knew that just sending out an email link to our maintenance guys saying, hey, take this web-based training and show up for certification, that probably wasn't a recipe for success. So we went ahead and we broke 2 districts per session, so we did 3 sessions. We actually facilitated. We had the group together. We went through the web-based training as well as our traditional, best practices kickoff. We trained everybody at this level. So this was the pre-certification training. We trained all of our operators, all of our managers, foremen, several district folks, our pavement people. And then from that, we identified who needed to go on to be the actual certification training. So about 5 people per district and some central office folks. So we had about 36 total that we had identified. And what we did, utilizing the ISSA web-based training, we cloned, so to speak, all of the knowledge checks onto our own PowerPoint using the turning point, which if you guys are familiar, that's the clickers, if you've ever done the little remote controls where you do polling for PowerPoints. The nice thing about doing it that way is when we had folks sign into the training, we assigned them a clicker, so we knew who was getting the questions right and who wasn't. So that let us identify either if large portions of the audience, were getting it wrong, okay, we knew we need to go over that, or if specific people just weren't getting it, we knew who we needed to go back and work with. The ISSA training, just as we learned, the final exam varies, so you don't always get the same questions on the final exam. So we ended up just making the final exam our own, and that was good because we got to incorporate some of our own NDOT specific stuff into there. Just as an example, this is one of the questions from the ISSA web-based training that we put into the turning point format, and so we were able to see, let people vote. Oh, there we go. So we could see, if like this specific example, the class got it. Other ones it wasn't that way, so we knew what topics we needed to hit more in depth and which ones we didn't. So for the folks that were going to go on and take the actual certification exam, we took them aside and impressed upon them that this is not an easy test. As Neil went over, the pass rates for the agency, I think, was 60%, and contractors was a little higher, 70%, but that's still a pretty good failure rate. So we impressed upon them that you need to study the manual. The manual that the National Center puts out is very good. It's very simple. It's fairly short. If you understand what's in that manual, you got a pretty good chance of passing the test. So again, we had 36 folks actually come. We brought them to Indianapolis to take the test. We had our core operators be our distributor, chip box operators, managers involved in coordinating the operation, and then we had some central office engineers that we could not keep away. And we decided to certify our folks as contractors. As Neil said, since we do the work ourselves, we went ahead and took the 80-question exam for our folks. So Larry Galehouse gave us refresher training, and that was nice. So he provided the refresher training in the morning, pretty much as going through the 6 parts of the manual: project selection, materials, design, equipment, construction, and quality assurance. So it was that last minute, refresher training, went over everything. We broke for lunch and then came back. The exam is closed book, so they weren't able to use their manuals or any notes, and there's no time limit on it. So most of our guys were done within an hour, but we didn't, since these are maintenance guys. They're not used to taking tests, even though they know the material. So we didn't want them to have any pressure there, but most of them were done within an hour. There was a couple that took a little more time. So when we got the initial results back, 33 had passed, and that really amazed us that we did that well. So of the 3 that didn't pass, this was in April, so we were just getting ready to start chip seal season. Those guys got busy, so we brought them back after chip seal season, so I think October. I did another refresher training just with those 3 guys, and then we took the test. We had one of those guys was able to pass the second time around, and 2 that could not. So out of 36, we only had 2 at the end that weren't able to pass. So one of the outcomes right off the bat that we saw, remember I showed the picture of the road that had problems from the get-go. We had 2 roads in May of last year in 2 different districts when we first started, and they weren't looking real good right from the get-go. But the good thing is that the guys that were certified, they recognized it right off the bat and said, hey, we got a problem. We need to pull off and figure out what's going on. So the prior mindset had been get the productivity, get done. It doesn't matter. Now they knew, hey, this is not quality. This is not what we want to be doing. And they pulled off, corrected the problem. So we avoided 2 major problems right off the bat, and that was very encouraging. So I think, yep, on to Rex.
All right. Well, thank you, Todd, and all. I appreciate everybody listening in today. So I am currently needed to change my slide. I guess I am now president of ISSA, International Slurry Surfacing Association, and then my part-time day job is with Bergkamp Bituminous Solutions. And I'm here just to talk about how industry and ISSA see certification and what we would like to see in an agency's program when they put it out. And guys, I don't seem to have control here. I'm doing something wrong.
Hit the down arrow.
Yeah, that's what. Nope, not giving that to me. Can somebody else go ahead and run it for me? There we go. Really quick on the timeline, just so that so you understand that this has been a long-term process. We started this in 2014 with a slurry and micro committee. We started seeing that we needed something to get quality jump-started in the industry. We knew that a certification would be a good route to take, and so we started working on it, worked through it with the board of directors, and then chose NCPP and TSP2 to collaborate with on the certification and testing. We held our first round of testing in January of 2016, and then Nevada DOT was the first state to add certification to its servicing specification in April of 2016. I'm not sure, we've had some other states add portions of this in, but I don't know of any other states that have yet gone full bore on the entire certification. We can go ahead, please. So why certification? It raises the quality bar for both members and non-members of ISSA, and that was important to us, that we were able to affect the quality of all of our contractors in the business. So that was good. It ensures that the contractor and the agency both understand what it takes to get a quality project. Sometimes only one side has an idea of what they're looking for, and if we can get everybody on the same page, everybody discussing what quality looks like to them, then we're more apt to have a good project. The quality management plan, which I'll talk about in a little bit, provides a roadmap for both the agency and the contractor to follow. And then the testing component, that requires all parties to pay attention to the education and training. But the main thing we want everybody to understand that we believe that certification, contractor certification, is much more than the individual testing component. And if all we do is leave it at a testing component and don't pick up the other parts of the puzzle, we're not going to have a good program. So we can advance forward, please. So ISSA decided early on that we would, for us to have credibility, we would have to manage it couldn't be managed by a contractor association, and we believe that NCPP would be the best group to help us. Their nationwide reputation, their access to AASHTO and TSP2, the affiliation with an accredited university, Michigan State, which provides testing software and guidance and really helps Neil and their group hone in on questions and make the questions and the testing relevant and fair to everybody that takes it. And we think that's very important. It's also NCPP has the ability and availability to manage the certification program and the database. So ISSA's job in this is we've turned over all management to NCPP, but it's our job to provide education and training assistance to members, non-members, and agencies. We're allowed by TSP2 and NCPP to kind of help put the training together and watch and make sure that everything's put together correctly and it meets the ISSA spec guides, which are the basis for everything we do. Okay, we can move forward. So here's kind of where we'd like to see in a certification plan, and again, the ISSA board of directors and a majority and a vast majority of our membership support this certification program. But we also believe that any certification put out by a DOT must include the following components, and we'll run through them all here, and then we'll kind of dive into each of them quickly. So the certification must apply to both contractor and agency, and we're very happy to see that's going on. Every agency that's looking at it is expecting to do both contractor and agency. There's separate contractor requirements, there's separate agency requirements, there's a quality management plan, there's the testing plan, and then there's a chance, a possibility, or a need for decertification. So let's kind of dive into all these, and we'll hit the next slide, please. So again, we believe that both parties must be certified in order to be effective. The reason for that is that we want both groups to be able to talk together using the same language, using the same idea of what quality looks like, having the same training. So we're all together, and it is a team effort out there trying to get a preservation project done on the road and completed successfully. So if our inspector and our superintendent have the same book, so to speak, and they have the same goal, we're halfway there. The other thing we think it does is the inspector certification. It reminds the agency that preservation projects are an important tool to maintain the health of the road network. And, you know, I understand with agencies a lot of times being behind on, you know, having not enough people to do all the work, and you've got that multi-million-dollar bridge job here, and you've got that, you know, $300,000 microservicing project over on the other side of the county. Where are you going to put your people? And we understand that, but we also hope that this helps you understand that there is a lot to inspecting a certification project, and we have to make sure we have the right people helping the contractor helping them get quality work. Next slide, please. So to be effective, the program should require the contractor to develop and follow a quality management plan that is specific to the agency specifications. And we like this part because this is where it helps the agency fine-tune this program into their specification. So by requiring a quality management plan aimed at your specs, you know that you're going to be able to walk through what's important to your state. So that's the first part. And then we want the contractor to certify at least one supervisor or trainer for every 3 crews working on agency projects. This needs to be should be a management level employee, someone who has full responsibility over the job and can also have full responsibility to go into the state DOT office and talk about the project. So this certification would include taking and passing the TSP2 certification course. Then we also believe that they should certify at least one foreman or operator that must be on the project at all times. The reason we have foreman or operator is because some contractors, the operator is the foreman. Some folks, it's 2 separate people. So this will give the contractor some flexibility, but there needs to be someone on the job with the responsibility to be able to shut down the project if need be, who is certified. And we would hope that there would be more than that. Then we'd like to see that at least 30% of each crew will have taken and passed the ISSA web-based training course. This doesn't have to be the full certification course, just needs to be the web-based training that takes about 90 minutes. The agency requirements that we'd like to see is that the agency review the quality management plan prior to each project, require at least one design level employee to have taken and passed the certification exam. That's mainly because we have a lot of issues early in a project that we've chosen the wrong roadway to do the process on. So hopefully if someone who is in the design level, who's approving designs, putting out the projects, has taken the program, they're going to understand what roads best handle these treatments. We'd like to require at least one field level employee to have taken and passed the certification exam. And we'd like to require the on-site inspector to have taken and passed the ESSA web-based training portion. So again, we understand that you have to flip inspectors back and forth between projects, but at least if they've sat down and taken the 90-minute web-based training with or without the certification test, that's a long way to being able to help the regular inspector or to help the crew out on the project. Then we want the agency to provide a method to be able to decertify a contractor for falsification of training documentation or quality management reports, because we need to make sure that the contractor is doing what they say they'll do as per certification. Next slide, please. So a little bit more on the quality management plan. Should be required by every agency, should be reviewed by the agency and contractor before every project, and should be followed by the contractor on every project. Most of this, yes, it can be somewhat boilerplate for each state, but there are always going to be specific things for the contractor, and we need to make sure that there is an updated quality management plan for each project or each region, however your projects are laid out. The quality plan must define the expected results and describe how these results will be achieved. So it must detail the following. It's the steps the contractor will go through to have a successful project. It talks about how the contractor will determine if there is a problem that will cause the project to not be successful, and what steps that the contractor is going to take to get the project back on track. Next slide, please. It should include their quality control testing, including a list of materials to be tested, tests to be conducted, location of sampling and testing frequency, establish detailed testing schedule based on production and the means to ensure its accomplishment. There should be some design protocol, and we'd like to see that the material and mix design laboratory is accredited by AASHTO Resource. Which tests will be completed for the design, and verification procedures to assure that the project job mix formula meets the mix design requirements. Okay, we can go ahead. And the last, it should have inspection control procedures for each phase of the project. The preparatory phase, that's hard for me to say, the startup phase and the production phase. And again, early in the project is a lot of times where we make the mistakes. We do okay laying the work, but maybe we don't get things cleaned, or maybe we don't get the patching done correctly, or maybe the cracks aren't filled right. So we need to start early in the project and work it all the way through to the end. And then obviously a description of what records are to be maintained by the contractor. Next one, please.